Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are strapping in for a really challenging look at power, specifically through the excerpts from Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power.
Yeah, and this isn't light reading. The sources here are, well, they're a collection of strategic and psychological tactics from some of history's heaviest hitters. Think Machiavelli, Plutarch, Musashi.
Right, it's basically a study in ruthlessness.
Really is.
And that gets right to our mission for you, the learner. This isn't about moral guidance
Yeah.
at all. Our goal is objective analysis.
Mm.
So whether you're in politics or running a company or just trying to understand high-stakes dynamics anywhere, you have to know these mechanisms exist.
Exactly. Because the core idea in this material is that real influence, true power, it's rarely about who's the most moral or even the most skilled.
It's about appearances.
It's fundamentally about controlling appearances and mastering psychological leverage. Indirection is almost always the best route.
Okay, let's unpack that.
Yeah.
I want to start with a law that seems like a total contradiction. Law 30. How you present your work.
Ah, yes. Law 30. Make your accomplishments seem effortless.
This is that art of hiding all the work, right?
Yeah.
All the practice, the dirty tricks, everything.
It's the art of sprezzatura, that Renaissance idea of natural, easy grace. Your actions have to look like they just flow out of you.
But if you're working 18-hour days to get something done, isn't it just human nature to want to show that struggle?
It is, but the material argues that revealing your hard work actually backfires.
Why, though?
Because it raises questions. If people see the sweat, they start to think the outcome was just from brute effort, not genius. They think, oh, well, I could do that too if I just worked harder. The performance has to feel like magic.
And the ultimate example of this has to be Harry Houdini. The source details that famous handcuff duel with Clopini.
Right. Clopini was this German escape artist who claimed Houdini was a fraud who just used, complicated gadgets.
And he thought he had him. He even stole the code for a set of French combination lock cuffs Houdini used.
He was so sure he had the secret, but Houdini was 10 steps ahead. During a little tussle on stage, which seems like an accident, Houdini secretly changed the combination.
I love this detail. He changed it to spell out F-R-A-U-D.
He did. So Clopini gets up there, tries the code he stole, and fails completely, publicly. Then Houdini just steps up and escapes instantly.
Making it look like effortless, almost divine inspiration.
Exactly. The audience never saw the weeks of practice that went into that one tiny distraction. The toil just vanishes. Only the genius remains.
And sometimes concealing your genius means concealing your intelligence completely. Which brings us right to Law 21.
Play a sucker to catch a sucker seemed dumber than your mark.
This one requires incredible patience. You have to actively make your target feel smarter than you, make them feel superior.
And that feeling of superiority makes them drop their guard. They would never suspect an ulterior motive from someone they've already written off as, a simpleton.
Like the famous diamond mine scam, Arnold and Slack.
Perfect example. They presented themselves as these naive rubes or hayseeds, just simple prospectors who stumbled into a fortune.
And they fooled the sharpest minds in the world. Financiers, gemologists from Tiffany, even a top mining expert, Luigi Meaton.
Because all those experts were focused on the technicals, on the diamonds themselves. It never occurred to them that these two unsophisticated men could pull off such an audacious, complex fraud.
Their simple appearance was the ultimate smokescreen.
Which is really the whole point behind Law 3. Conceal your intentions.
Keep people off balance so they can't prepare a defense. So you lead them down one path while you're actually going down another. The material even says being an open book is a huge weakness.
And it highlights the use of false sincerity. Look at Otto von Bismarck, a master strategist, completely obsessed with Prussian military might.
But he gives this famous speech in Parliament praising Austria and talking about the horrors of war.
Total insincerity. But it completely confused his rivals. They were so busy analyzing his anti-war words that they missed the real moves he was making to consolidate power for a future conflict.
It's a grand, confusing gesture, a smokescreen.
And the material points to the noble gesture as one of the most effective kinds.
Like Joseph Duveen, the art dealer, helping Andrew Mellon create the National Gallery of Art in D.C. It looked like pure public service.
Pure benefaction. But if you dig into the analysis, you see the strategy. The act helped Duveen's rich clients avoid massive taxes. Good for business.
And it also cleared their walls for new art purchases.
Right, and it took masterpieces off the market, which kept prices high for the very art Duveen was still selling. It was a multi-layered masterpiece of deception.
The modern parallel is so clear there. Strategic corporate social responsibility. using an altruistic front for hidden financial goals.
And it all hinges on managing relationships, which brings us to one of the most chilling laws in the book, Law 2.
Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies.
I mean, that sounds completely unsustainable today, right? In a modern collaborative company.
It does. It feels like you'd be sacrificing long-term success for short-term ruthlessness.
Well, the historical case studies in the source suggest that trust often breeds complacency. And worse, envy.
Your friends feel entitled to your success.
Exactly. They can become spoiled, even tyrannical. An enemy, on the other hand, has more to prove. They can often be more loyal out of pure necessity.
And the worst-case scenario for trusting a friend has to be the Byzantine Emperor Michael III.
Oh, it's brutal. He elevates his best friend, Basilius, the head of the royal stables, to a position of immense power. He's expecting, eternal gratitude.
A fatal miscalculation.
Completely. Once Basilius gets a taste of real power, gratitude is the last thing on his mind. He assassinates Michael, his so-called friend, and has his head paraded on a pike.
So the emperor's mistake was seeing a personal relationship where he should have seen a transactional one.
Yeah. And that speaks directly to Law 11, then. Learn to keep people dependent on you. If you can't trust friends, you better make sure everyone needs you.
That's the ultimate insurance policy.
It's the key. True independence, the material says, comes from making others rely on you for their happiness and prosperity. And crucially, you never teach them enough to do without you.
There's that incredible story about King Louis XI and his astrologer.
Right. The king suspects the astrologer is a spy and decides to have him executed.
And when he's threatened, the astrologer doesn't beg. What does he say?
He says that the stars have foretold that he, the astrologer, is destined to die just 3 days before the king.
A brilliant move.
Masterful. King Louis, terrified of dying, not only spares him, but protects him and showers him with gifts for the rest of his life. The astrologer became untouchable because the king's survival felt tied to his.
That's dependence on a small scale. But we see it politically, too, with Bismarck again.
Over and over. He made King William I completely dependent on him just by making it clear that if he resigned, the king would be left to twist in the wind, unable to handle the political chaos.
So if you're calculating who is useful, you also have to calculate who is a liability. Which brings us to Law 10, infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky.
And it's important to clarify, this isn't about avoiding people who are poor, it's about avoiding emotional contamination.
Emotional states are infectious.
Highly infectious. If you associate with people who seem to just draw misfortune to themselves through their own bad decisions, that energy, that chaos, it will spread to you.
The example of Lola Montez, the dancer, is terrifying.
She ruined everyone who fell for her. King Ludwig of Bavaria lost his throne, forced to abdicate because of his obsession with her.
And George Trafford healed, that promising army officer she married.
He lost his position, his reputation, and died shortly after she drove him away. It's a high-stakes energy drain, a reason to be ruthless about who you let into your inner circle.
Okay, so in direct confrontation, we get to Law 39. Stir up waters to catch fish.
The ultimate strategic advantage is staying calm.
Because anger is counterproductive.
It clouds judgment. If you can stay calm and objective while you make your enemies furious, they will make mistakes. Rash, desperate errors, you fight with their energy and not your own.
The classic example being Talleyrand. When Napoleon discovered his treason, he flew into this spectacular rage.
Screaming, yelling, throwing insults in front of all the other ministers, a total meltdown.
And Talleyrand's response?
Perfection. He just leaned against the mantelpiece and looked completely bored. Indifferent.
Which just made Napoleon even angrier.
Exactly. It reduced this military genius to a sputtering, childish spectacle. Napoleon was the one who looked weak. Talleyrand remained in complete control just by refusing to engage emotionally.
That level of control is something else. It shows how power is really won or lost internally.
Absolutely. And the simplest form of that self-control is Law 4. Always say less than necessary.
Because silence creates an aura of power.
It makes you seem profound, impenetrable. It implies you know more than you're letting on. And just on a practical level, the less you say, the less chance you have of saying something foolish or dangerous.
The tragic story of Kondraty Ryleyev, one of the Decembrist leaders sentenced to death by Tsar Nicholas I. This proves just how lethal saying too much can be.
It really does. The rope broke during his execution, which was often seen as a sign from God, a reason for a pardon.
He had a second chance.
And he threw it away. Instead of staying silent, he shouted out, "In Russia, they don't know how to do anything properly, not even how to make rope."
Fatal arrogance.
Completely. The Tsar heard this, rescinded any thought of a pardon, and ordered a new, stronger rope. Aureliev was executed all because of one unnecessary, arrogant comment.
An utter loss of control. In total contrast to that, you have Law 34. Be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one.
Now, this isn't about being loud or bombastic.
Right. It's not about arrogance. What is it then?
It's the strategy of the crown. It's about projecting a quiet, calm self-assurance, a confidence that might even seem out of proportion to your actual status.
And people just assume you must have a reason for that confidence.
They do. And they start to treat you accordingly. Perceived limits just start to disappear.
Christopher Columbus is the perfect example. When he went to the Spanish court, to Queen Isabella,
He didn't come in begging. He carried himself with the same elevated, calm assurance that the nobility displayed. He acted as if his destiny was already certain.
and that certainty was contagious.
It created an instant affinity. Isabella saw him not as a supplicant, but as an equal in spirit, and so she granted his incredibly ambitious wishes. He projected royalty and got a royal reward.
So for long-term survival in these power games, we have to land on Law 48. Assume formlessness.
This is the ultimate defense, according to the material.
Adaptability.
Total adaptability. If you take a rigid, fixed shape, if you have a visible plan, you become a target. Your enemy has something to grab onto, something to attack.
You see the failure of rigidity with Sparta. Their whole system was based on military discipline and isolation. It worked for a while.
For a time, yes. But it eventually doomed them to stasis. They couldn't adapt to a changing world, to things like naval power and global trade. They were too rigid.
And you contrast that with
With the success of formlessness, like Mao Zedong's strategy against the nationalists. He used the vast, empty space of Manchuria to his advantage.
he didn't give them a solid target.
Never. He broke their superior, centralized forces into smaller, isolated units. The enemy had nothing solid to strike. The lesson is clear. If you can't be grasped, you can't be defeated.
Wow. So after all that, let's try to synthesize this. We've seen these historical principles boil down to a few key pillars.
I think so. First, there's controlling appearances, making genius look effortless, seeming naive when it suits you. Then there's engineering relationships, using dependence, avoiding emotional infection.
And finally, mastering yourself.
Yeah.
That internal control.
Right. Saying less, staying calm, and maintaining that formlessness.
So the ultimate takeaway here, for you, the listener, is really about recognition. You need to know these tactics to see them coming.
Whether it's in a boardroom or from a political rival, the book is very clear on this. Ignorance of the game of power does not protect you from it.
It just makes you a pawn.
Exactly. And that leaves us with a final, kind of provocative thought to mull over. If the world demands this constant formlessness and adaptability from Law 48, is that constant need to change shape, to wear multiple masks, to engage in this endless deception, is that a requirement for survival? Or is that act of perpetual deception a prison in itself?
Something to think about as you observe the power dynamics all around you. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.